Recording going. So welcome everybody. Good to be with you all. We're missing our Jewish brothers and sisters today because it's the evening for the first Passover Seder. So we wish very best wishes for Passover to the Jewish community, and especially to those who've been working so closely with us to help make the PCM an important and successful event. So we've got a couple of items to cover tonight. One is a logistics update. We've gotten a number of questions from folks about logistics. Want to mention very briefly a public call that's happening this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to build momentum for the march. And then a little bit of information about a multi-faith buzz building action by clergy and people of faith in DC a week from this Wednesday. So not the longest, and we may be joined by Reverend Leo Woodbury, an environmental justice activist from the southeastern US, who was going to share his experience of what he's been doing on mobilizing for PCM, but I'm not sure if Reverend Leo is going to be able to join us or not. So that's our agenda for today. Briefly, in terms of logistics, we've gotten a number of questions about the exact location where faith groups are going to line up. And right now the answer is that it will be somewhere along 3rd Street in front of the Capitol building, but we don't know exactly where. There will be signage so that people will be able to find their way to different the different contingencies or different constituencies, excuse me. So there will be signs that'll guide you to the faith sector, and we will be somewhere along 3rd Street, but we don't know exactly when. Within the next couple of days, we'll be able to release a map that'll show the order in which the different constituencies will be lining up, so that at that point you'll have that and you'll be able to see where the faith groups will be in relationship to any other groups. We don't have that quite yet. It's in the process of getting finalized. And so stay tuned for that, and we'll share that as soon as we've got it, and we'll put that up on the faith.peoplesclimate.org website. Another logistical question that people have had is whether within the faith contingent we'll have the same signs that we had in New York, or similar signs that we had in New York in 2014 for enabling people to find their peers from their own religious tradition or from their denomination. And the answer is that we will have signage of one kind or another. We've been reaching out to Catherine Skopik from New York, who was the artist who did an absolutely wonderful job on those New York signs, and hoping that she's still got those. But one way or the other, we will have those, have signs there so that you can find where your members of your denomination or religious tradition or spiritual tradition are going to be. And we also, in the 10 days or so before the march, will develop a map that shows the order in which we're going to line up with different faith and spiritual traditions. We'll share that on the 1 or 2 calls like this before the march itself. We haven't yet determined that and figured out exactly what makes the most sense. And so we'll have information for you all about that as soon as we've got that. We've gotten lots of calls or lots of questions from folks in terms of crowd estimates. And it's a very, very difficult and ultimately impossible question to answer. Our goal for the faith contingent is that we want to have at least 10,000 people of faith who are in the faith contingent there, which means that they're there because their faith is the primary way in which they identify around the march. Obviously, there'll be lots of people of faith who will march with the labor contingent or with the environmentalist contingent, that sort of thing. But we don't know how those turnout numbers are going to turn out. And the same challenge, we're facing the same challenge with the other segments. I think that, and I think that it's likely to remain that way. We're going to, along with the other members of the PCM steering committee, do our best at getting an estimate of anticipated crowds over the next couple of weeks. But that kind of figuring is notoriously difficult to do. It's all soft numbers. And so I think that the most important thing to say is that it's really critical for us all to keep on working on turnout as much as we possibly can. And to really, we know that we're now entering into the last 3 weeks. We're in the last 3 weeks before the march. We know that we're in the time period when a lot of people make their decisions about whether they're going to come to Washington or not. And so now is really peak time for making our push. Obviously, for people in the Jewish and Christian community, this is a very busy week with Passover and with Holy Week and Easter. But nonetheless, we want to encourage everybody to really keep on making a push, because this is the sort of prime time for doing that. Over the course of the next week to 10 days, we will be putting out there a series of op-eds and blog posts by faith leaders from different traditions, saying why they're marching and why they feel it's really critically important. We'll share those with this list. We'll put those links up on the faith.peoplesclimate.org website. And we hope you'll get those and put those out there, share those with your networks, because sometimes that kind of, hearing it from an expert or that sort of external affirmation can help remind people how important it is for them to be there. So that's something that'll be forthcoming, and stay tuned for that. I also wanted to make mention of the fact that thanks to the DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia Interfaith Power and Light chapter, there are some really useful, adaptable bulletin inserts that you'll find on the faith.peoplesclimate.org website. You can take those and adapt them for your own setting, and make sure that you use those to get word out to folks that the march is coming. We'd really encourage you to make use of those. We know that this weekend coming up is tough, but the following weekend is the last weekend before the march. So as soon as you possibly can, we encourage you to share those with your faith community, with your congregation. So, and I see we've got one or two people who've raised their hand. With the webinar setting on this system, it works out better if you can actually send in a question via the chat function, because it's tricky logistically for me to unmute folks with this system. So if you can send in questions via the chat function, that would be, or the Q&A function, that would be great. Trying to think in terms of other logistics. We will have a little bit more information next week about the location in DC for artwork, as a way of helping folks get connected with that, and hope that many of you will. Another piece that I wanted to mention is that this coming Wednesday, so 2 nights from tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, there will be a public call open to the public to build buzz for the march. Their key representative Keith Ellison will speak on that call, unless there is a last-minute breaking news story that emerges. Van Jones will speak on that call, and I'm really excited to share that Rabbi Shoshana Meira Friedman will be the faith speaker on that call. A number of us know Shoshana as the founder of clergyclimateaction.org. She's very active in the Massachusetts Interfaith Coalition for Climate Action, and a rabbi at a Reformed Temple in Brookline, Massachusetts. And so she'll be the faith representative that day. And it'll be great to hear what she says. She's coming to the march in DC all the way from Boston, which is great. So we're looking forward to hearing from her. And we will send around to this. We'll send around the login information for that call to this list that gets these emails about these weekly calls, so that you can share those with your friends and colleagues. So that's good. I'm seeing a couple of questions that have come up. People asking what time should people of faith try to be at the lineup location. The lineup starts at 11 o'clock, and the march will be stepping off at 12:30. And so what we're encouraging folks to do is to get there as close to 11 o'clock as you can. We don't know, again, the big unknown is how big the crowds will be. So it's very difficult to estimate how much time it'll take you to get from whatever metro station you're getting off at, or wherever you're starting out in DC, to the actual faith lineup area. So it's very, very difficult to know, but we're encouraging folks be with us starting at 11. We are working with some musicians to see if we can figure a way to have a way for people of faith to join in some singing together. We don't think we're going to be able to have a large scale stage and sound system as we did in New York, and we know that in New York that didn't work for everybody. So we're looking at some distributed singing, distributed-coordinated singing. There is still a Catholic Mass planned for earlier in the day, and there are a whole number of different Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and multi-faith services and activities that are planned. If you go to faith.peoplesclimate.org, you'll see a full listing of those, or the listing of those that we have, and you can get information about dates and times and locations of those. Again, there are the sample bulletin insert, which you can adapt and modify as you see fit, is on the faith.peoplesclimate.org website, and you can download those and modify them for your purpose. So we've got the logistical updates, the info about the public call on Wednesday evening, and this will be the time when there are some big public names associated with a buzz building action for the march. And so to the degree that that's helpful for folks in terms of recruiting, please make a point of sharing that around. The last piece that I'll mention is that we have we're going to be doing a buzz building action in Washington, D.C. A week from this Wednesday. So on Wednesday, April 19th, there will be an action in most likelihood at the White House, where clergy and people of many different faiths will gather, and there will be a symbolic action with to make clear what will happen and what conditions we'll be faced with if we don't take strong climate action. The aim behind that symbolic action is to generate some powerful images, which can then get shared out through social media, traditional media, and it will be an effort to create a moment whereby the faith voice is lifted up singularly in the lead up to the march. So if we'll be sharing again information about how to get connected with that action if you're in the DC area. So hopefully folks will jump in and take part in that. It looks like it's going to be on the 19th, Wednesday, the 19th of April at 10:30 in the morning, right by the White House. Gotten a question come in about, can people wear backpacks? And then there's a question that says cloth or clear, and I think that means cloth or clear backpacks. You know, I think that it's always best with these sort of situations to plan on not bringing backpacks, that if you need them for the purpose of carrying water or other sort of urgently necessary supplies, if you can use clear bags, that always makes security feel more comfortable. And we've also said to folks that that in terms of signage, that it's smart to plan on making your signs out of cardboard and paper, but not to use wood or metal in the rods or supports for that, because again, that's something that security forces often become concerned about in terms of people getting hurt. So those really, it's a short call this week. We'll have more next week and the week following that. I'll keep the line open just for another moment or two, just in terms of whether people have any final questions or thoughts. I'm hoping that next week we'll be able to get Reverend Woodbury from South Carolina to speak with us. But not seeing any other signs, I think we'll quit while we're ahead this week and make it a short call. In the meantime, hang on a sec. There's one other question that has come on. Can I announce what the UUs are organizing in Washington? We will try to get the UUs, or Doris, sorry, you're saying, can I announce? Doris, the answer is yes, and maybe we can get you on next week, because as I mentioned earlier, it's tricky for me to try to, let me see if I can, let me see if there's a way I can unmute you. I'm not sure that there is. Hang on just a sec. All right, Doris, okay, Doris, you are on. You can unmute yourself and you can share quickly what the UUs are planning. But you're gonna have to unmute yourself. The unmute is right down on the lower left-hand corner of your screen, Doris. I'm not sure if you're able to access or not. Well, what we'll do is we'll get a UU representative on the call next week to be able to speak to that, so that we have folks live. So, not seeing any.
Yes, I was able to unmute.
Okay, there you go, Doris. Good to hear you. Share what the UU community is planning on.
Great, thank you, Fletcher. So in the morning, those people who are arriving early, we're going to start gathering just south of the National Mall on 3rd Street at a coffee shop. So and we'll start organizing, photographing, sharing names, building our movement. So as early as 9 o'clock, whenever people get there, there will be coffee and a bathroom. Then we'll pull together in Greater Mass at 11 and go through all of the events happening with the march together, as you wish. Starting about 4:30, we will have live music at All Souls Church, just 2 miles up the road on 16th Street, from 2 miles north of the White House. So live music after party with Caribbean music, and dinner available, and again, more organizing and movement building and discussions, and just a chance to relax and get to know each other better. Sunday, you're welcome to attend the services at All Souls Church, where we'll also continue movement building, as well as have lunch available and a panel focusing on climate justice, frontline communities, how to build a movement in collaboration with frontline communities, and strengthening our UU voices in this critical effort.
Great, many thanks, Doris. And I'm assuming and hoping that you've got that information shared in summary form that you've shared that with us in writing, so that can be up on the on the website, so that the web page, so that people can get information about it there. And if it's not there, please get that to us so that we can put that up right away. No. Good. Well, many thanks, everybody. For those who are Jewish, I hope that Passover goes very, very well. For those who are Christian, have a good Holy Week and Easter. Many thanks to everybody for their commitment. We'll be back at our same normal time next Monday at 5:30 Eastern Time. And take care. Good to talk, everybody. Bye-bye now.